Welcome back to lesson 2.2. Today, right now, we're looking at learning target 2, being able to write inverse, converse, and contrapositive of a conditional statement. Negation. To negate means to give it the opposite value. It will change the truth value. It will undo what was done. To negate undoes what is done. So it's to make it not so. To change it using the word not. Okay? So for example, let me give you a crazy example. My crazy example is not loading, so I'm not able to pull it up on the screen. So here's my idea. Here's the idea. If I gave you the sentence, the sky is blue, you would negate it by saying the sky is not blue. So here are some things that we call related conditionals. The original conditional statement is P arrow Q. It's if P, then Q. The converse is to switch. To write the converse is to switch the P and the Q. So it is Q arrow P instead of P arrow Q. This is if Q, then P. In other words, the hypothesis and the conclusion switch. So you're switching the hypothesis and the conclusion. To make a new hypothesis, what was your conclusion is now your hypothesis. What was your hypothesis is now your conclusion. To write an inverse is to negate both parts, both the hypothesis and the conclusion. So it would be if not P, then not Q. So it's all of these are based off the conditional statement. So starting with this conditional, I would make these both not. If not P, then not Q. And that symbol right there is not. That little tilde is not. So this is not P, not Q. Notation you're going to need to be familiar with. And lastly, the contrapositive is a combination of the converse and inverse. So you take the original conditional statement and you both switch the P and the Q and you negate them. So to write the contrapositive, and I remember that it's like two root words, not just converse and inverse, but contra and positive. We switch and negate for contrapositive. So it is if not Q, then not P. The notation for that looks like this. Tilde Q, that's if not Q. The arrow implies or then, not P. Write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of each statement, then identify the truth values of each. So then we have to look and see, can we find a counterexample to make it false? And if one doesn't exist, then it's probably true. So converse, if an angle is 95 degrees, then it is obtuse. For the truth value, this conditional is a true statement. The converse, to write the converse, we switch. So we write if Q, then P. So we would say if an angle, if the measure of angle A, or if angle A, sorry, is obtuse, because we are reversing it, if angle A is obtuse, then measure angle A is 95 degrees. Well, we switched P and Q, so we have the correct converse. This converse is false, and we can come up with a counterexample. It has to be an obtuse angle that isn't 95 degrees. So we could just say 91 degrees. It meets the condition of the hypothesis, gives a different conclusion. The inverse is to take the original conditional statement and just negate both parts. If the measure of angle A does not equal 95 degrees, then angle A is not obtuse. Again, this is false because we can come up with a counterexample that isn't an angle that's not 95 degrees, but in fact is obtuse. We could again use 91 degrees or maybe 100 degrees. This 100 degrees is not 95 degrees, and it is obtuse. And our contrapositive is where we have to switch and negate. So I'd say if angle A is not obtuse, then the measure of angle A does not equal 95 degrees. So I've switched them and negated them for the contrapositive. So let me think about that. If an angle is not obtuse, okay, then it can't be 95 degrees. True. Because any angle that's not obtuse is either 180 because it's a straight angle, or more than a straight angle. We could have things above 180. Or it's between 0 and 90, so it's acute. And in any of those cases, it's not 95 degrees. So this is a true conditional sentence, a true contrapositive. All right, please pause the video and take a moment. First off, let's write this together as an if-then sentence. It says all right angles measure 90 degrees. So we can say if an angle is a right angle, then it measures 90 degrees. Then it measures 90 degrees. So I'm going to ask you to find the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of that statement and determine their truth value. All right, so here we have our answers. If an angle is a right angle, then it measures 90 degrees. That was the conditional statement. The converse switches the hypotenuse and conclusion. So if an angle measures 90 degrees, then it is a right angle. So there you can see the switch. For the inverse, it keeps the same order as the original conditional statement, but it negates both parts. So we have added the not a right angle and does not measure 90 degrees. And if it is a contrapositive, then we have to both switch, which is what you're seeing for our contrapositive, switch and negate both parts. Uh-oh, that's not what I wanted to do. All right, so that's it for this. These notes, but we do have to determine the truth value. So it turns out that all of these are true because, in fact, this is actually a definition, and a definition is true for all of these. If an angle is a right angle, then it measures 90. If an angle measures 90, then it's a right angle. These are both true sentences. If it's not a right angle, then it can't measure 90. True. If it doesn't measure 90, then it's not a right angle. True. This concludes Clip 2 for Lesson 2.2 video notes. Have a great day.